Hi folks, and welcome to Art Tips with John. I am your host John Morris, the painter of memories, and welcome to the show that teaches you how to build your creative business and how to unlock your amazing, awesome artistic talent. Welcome to today's show. Okay folks, in today's show, as I said on Tuesday, we're going to do something really different. I want to take you back exactly 1 year to this very day or night, whenever you're watching this, for a very unique art tutorial. We're talking today about thinking outside the box. Now, many artists have, asked me for ideas of, well, how do I think outside the box? What can I do differently? Well, I've got a prime example for you. Last year, things were a little bit quieter. And I decided, right, let's have some fun. It's coming up to Halloween. Why not? Let's create a character. Let's have some fun. Let's develop a character that maybe people can get behind. And I did. And it was called The Artist. Now, The Artist is a silent character with face paint on. So I'm just giving you a full warning here. And kids absolutely went bananas over this character. It was phenomenal, the response that we got back. And I want to present to you now in its entirety the tutorial called The Artist, and you'll get to see a lot more of this character as we go through today's show. From a secure location in southwest Scotland, a man has emerged. His aim is to leave you in a sense of awe, entertain you and enthrall you with the artwork that he presents. Many know him by many different names, but we simply know him as The Artist. In tonight's show, The Artist attempts to create one of his most stunning seascapes ever, filled with bright lights and powerful colours. Do you think he'll do it? We will see. As always, The Artist looks absolutely stunning. His hair is a beautiful brown colour. Oh, sorry, I digress. The artist begins with a blank white canvas and begins to create a semicircle of yellow paint. The top part of the painting will become a sunset. After laying in the base colours of yellow and white, he then begins to paint a deeper orange on top. This is made up with yellow and red. He's using a 2-inch brush and just going from side to side in semicircle shapes. The third layer is to add a little bit more red into the already deepened orange. Looking at things from this camera angle, it creates a bird's eye view of what the artist is doing, so we can see how he's holding the brush, how he's standing, holding his body to create those beautiful colours that he's applying to the canvas. The artist then comes in with a little bit of red and a little bit of black to create a 4th layer on top of the canvas, filling it up. This is creating an amazing, beautiful sunset. I wonder where the artist gets all these ideas for such creativity. We haven't seen him in a while. I wonder what he's been up to. The artist then comes in with a layer of red and a layer of black. Now this is creating a really dark sea. When painting a sea, it's really important that you have layers of dark within to show the waves when you're putting the bright colours on the HUD. You will see what we mean later on. Once the artist has filled a section of the canvas with red and black, he then fills a final section in down at the bottom with black paint. I wonder what this will become. Have you got any ideas? I don't. We'll have to wait and see. The artist comes in now with a layer of orange, and this is to layer deeper colours onto this canvas. As we said, this is going to be a painting filled with light and colour, and no one does it better than the artist. The artist comes in with another layer of white and yellow. Now he's beginning to build and blend the colours together. A little bit of orange perhaps into this sun just to deepen the warmth and add a little bit of extra texture to the sun. Notice now how he's blending the paint together. This can only be done with a wet paint, which is why it's important when working with acrylic paint to work quickly. Should your paint begin to dry out, you can of course add a little bit of water to it in order just to build things up a little bit more. Continuing to cover the entire canvas now, look how those colours are beautifully blended together. you'd hardly even know that it was paint. The artist now comes in with a large roundhead brush. He loads it with black paint, a little bit of water, mixes the two together, and begins creating some beautiful rocky mountain shapes. From this angle we can see closely just how the artist is putting together these mountains. Notice here how there are variations in the different peaks in the mountains, and how he's building in the colour. Because the paint is still wet from the background, it means that he can use that for shadow and mist coming into the mountains themselves. This creates a very unique and wonderful blend of tones that's very hard to replicate. Notice here how the artist is following down each and every peak that is from the mountain, creating some beautiful, beautiful layers and some effects onto these mountains. He comes in to reload the brush, and just adding a little bit of darker shadow at the base of the mountain. You can now see where the mountain stops and where the water begins. The artist comes in now with the same brush, a little bit of white, a little bit of brown. Brown on one side, white on the other. And all the artist is doing now is just adding in a few highlights where the light is hitting on the sides of the peaks of the mountains. This is what we know as bringing the mountains to life. Every mountain will have a dark side and every mountain will have a light side. And the artist captures this so well through his artwork. Notice now how the mountains begin to look 3D. He adds a little bit more shading under the mountains, just so as we know where they are. Plus, when we add the water lines on top, it will just help them pop straight off the canvas. Make sure when you're doing your mountains and using your reflections to go side to side to take out any harsh lines that may be in your painting. The artist then comes in with an old fan brush, loads it with a little bit of white paint, and begins gently rocking side to side. Now this is a technique that takes most students quite a while to master. But notice here how he's adding in the illusion of distant waves. The artist is one heck of an illusionist. Gently rocking from side to side, he's creating the illusion of far away waves. Notice how the waves are getting longer and wider the closer that they come to the bottom of the canvas. The further away that they are, they want to be smaller and thinner. Gently rocking from side to side and continuing to load the brush with white paint as and when is needed, and sometimes a tiny touch of water. If you're using acrylic paint, of course you will use water, and if you are using oil paint, naturally you will use turpentine. The artist now comes in with the same fan brush and he begins to create the main base of the wave. Notice this giant S shape that he is painting onto his canvas. This gives a fantastic base and an outline to work with. Now the artist is coming in with that roundhead brush, a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow to paint the main eye of the wave. The eye is always the brightest part of the wave because it's where the light is usually hitting straight. He then comes in with a little bit of yellow and yellow ochre and begins pulling round in C or banana shapes. Sometimes that's the best way to actually teach, is just to call it by fruit or vegetables, things that people have seen. Although we have had a few students that's never seen a banana before. Interesting bunch. Anyway, adding a little bit of red, you can now see how the wave is starting to darken the further away it gets from the eye. This normally takes between 4 and 5 layers of paint to do, so if you are painting along with us, do not get frustrated. All you need to do is wait for the paint to dry, and then just add in another layer. You'll see what I mean later on. So here you can start to see that we have got from left to right, some beautiful yellows, some oranges, into greens, into blues, into red, into dark red. You can see the beautiful progression as we go down the wave. He now comes in with a 2-inch brush loaded with white paint and begins to put the foam on top of the wave. As you can see here, he's using a tapping motion. From this angle we can see a little bit clearer just how the effects of the paint are being applied to the canvas. Creating that beautiful arch at the side, that'll be important for something that we need later on. He now begins to add in the wave itself. Notice here how he starts from the right side and pulls over to the left, just pulling over in almost eyelash kind of technical fashion. Down below we're putting in now a little bit of red, a little bit of black, because there's less light that's coming down and hitting that section, so it's naturally going to be darker. All we're doing at this stage is just laying in base colours, and the artist is one, if nothing more, than a patient person. He begins then just going side to side, rocking with the waves and the motion of the sea. Every attention to detail is covered. He now loads the brush with a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of white. And yes, you've probably guessed it, down at the bottom, he's now painting a beautiful sandy beach. Yellow ochre and white are beautiful colours, but adding a little bit of red just creates that depth and that warmth that we're looking for in this particular painting. The advice of the artist is certainly to blob the paint on. It creates depth and tone and texture that people can see when they're looking up close at your artwork. The way that the bristles pull across the canvas as well creates that grainy, sandy kind of effect that you want for your artwork. The artist now comes back in to work on the wave. Oh wait, what's this? He's working on a second wave. This one's much smaller and much further away. Let's see how this one develops. Once again, he's painting the bright eye of the wave. You can see there that that is the brightest section. It's where the sun would be hitting. The top part of the wave will always be the brightest, and down towards the bottom will be the darkest. Providing you remember this, you should have a great formula for creating waves. As you can now see, to divide the waves up and to make them look more realistic, the artist creates a layer of dark paint underneath the second wave that he's just painted before the original wave. So now we can start to see here that there's some amazing depth and distance between the waves. That was just done with black and red paint and using the fan brush. The artist is now adding the second or third layer, I've lost count, to the original wave that he began painting. Does anyone else think that the eye of the wave looks a bit like an egg? No, maybe just me. Yes, sorry, Mr. Artist, we are paying attention to you. I have to humour him every now and then. As you can see here, he's still pulling in those banana shapes and around the wave, following the grain, following the wave. Remember that the wave starts from the bottom and it is rolling over the top. You can tell we've been teachers to students. Adding a little bit more colour in now, he begins to develop the wave even further. The artist has got some new face paint on as well. I'm kind of digging the sort of shadowy effect that he's got going on as well. Every episode he seems to have a brand new style of, well, appearance. I believe at one point he even did try a white shirt. Anyway, so the artist now comes in with a round head brush, a little bit of black on one side, a little bit of red on the other, and you can now start to see how it's developing from the bright colour up at the eye of the wave right down to the darker colours further down. He now touches up on a second layer of paint using the fan brush, touching up that first wave, or the more distant wave. Let's go with that, it sounds good. You can now start to see the real dump of the wave there, making it more effective. But he's not done yet. Adding some little foamy patterns in there, just creating some beautiful texture and technique upon his wave. Okay. Now as the artist continues, he comes in with black on one side of a filbert brush and white on the other. I knew he'd have something up his sleeve. This is one of the artist's favourite techniques, which is to paint rocks right next to his wave. He does this, as we will see, to create the illusion of the wave crashing into rocks, which creates beautiful spray and mist and so many other wonderful effects. So as we can see here, the side that is furthest away from the light is much darker than the side that is, well, closest to the light. He adds a few little smaller stones at the side. I have a feeling he may develop this as he goes along. And while he's got the brush in his hand, he's adding a little bit more highlight onto the mountains. Those mountains we started right at the beginning of the painting. He then comes in with a 1/4 inch brush loaded with white paint and begins to add some foamy spray upon the painting. Well, of course it's the painting. He's adding it just above where the rocks are, so we get the depth now and the idea of this wave just crashing into the rocks. He now comes in with a little bit of water, a little bit of white paint, and he's adding spray. What an amazing effect that this has upon the painting. It creates that amazing illusion of water hitting the rocks and just spraying up into the sky and just all over, wherever it wants. It's free and it's open to movement. Sorry, I'm getting deeply emotional here about the water. The artist now comes in with the 2-inch brush loaded with a little bit of white paint, and he begins to add almost like angel rays from the sun up into the canvas. Notice here how he's creating a lifting motion. Let's see this a little bit closer. A little bit of white paint. He begins from the middle and starts pulling out. The paint is still slightly wet, so it will absorb very well this effect that he's doing. And then just touches it up at the bottom, and you got a beautiful effect right there. That sun is just setting, and it's just on the ocean bed. He adds a little bit more detail into the mountains. Now, this will be much darker because it's closer to the sun. The sunlight is behind it, which naturally darkens the object that it's hitting. He adds a little bit more highlight onto the wave. The artist really has accomplished a lot in the last 18 minutes. Back down towards the base of the painting, he's adding in more. He's adding a little bit of black, a little bit of red, even a little bit of orange in there, just to darken and deepen those beautiful colours that he's been putting on earlier on. A little bit of white now, maybe with a little bit of highlight, just a little bit of light that's shining through. Who knows, but it looks really good. I'm just the narrator. The artist hair really does look shiny, doesn't it? Especially in winter. A little bit of red, a little bit of black at the side where there's an absence of light. Ooh, now there's a little bit of yellow that's just shining through there. How beautiful is that? He just blends that on in, just nice and simply, going side to side as usual. The artist now comes in with a large round head brush. Loads of brush with a little bit of water, a little bit of black paint. And ooh, now comes your bravery test, as our dear friend and deceased partner Bob Ross would say. Now we're creating some palm trees. This is one of the artist's specialties. It's the one that puts fear and terror sometimes into his students. As you can understand, you've done this beautiful painting, you've spent for some weeks and weeks, if not months, creating these beautiful colours only for this lunatic from the 17th century to decide to put black lines in the middle of a painting. It's kind of scary. I understand why some students would be petrified and even hyperventilate. I digress. So once you've got your black bases in for the palm trees, he's coming in now with a 1/4 inch brush loaded with black paint and a small amount of water to make the paint more pliable. He then begins bending round for the palm leaves and pulling and pushing, as you can see here, to create that beautiful palm-like, I don't even know what you'd say, that beautiful palm-like tree, I guess, branch, palm leaf. You can tell I'm a little bit out of practice. Now the artist recommends that you do between 3 and 5 leaves. 4 and 2 make the tree look a little bit odd. Even numbers tend to make paintings look a little bit strange, a little bit odd, even incomplete, depending where the leaves are placed. So between 3 and 5 is the optimum number. Notice here how the tree now looks more like it's hulking out. But with that 5th one, it's going to look just like it's as it should be. Nice little bends. Think about if there's a wind that's coming. On the other side, now we can see a widescreen shot that the artist is now beginning to develop the palm leaves on the other side. Again, he just keeps going in, reloading the paintbrush with black paint for each new palm branch that comes out. I have nothing much to say at this point because we've already covered on how to do the palm leaves, so I'll just leave you to enjoy the music and watch the artist until the next point of interest, I guess. Ooh, that didn't take long. Okay, so the artist now is creating some rocks, similar to what we did before, a little bit of black on one side and white on the other. White wants to face towards the light, so it's going to face upwards, and the black obviously is going to face downwards, because it's where the shadow is. Creating a nice rocking motion. If you think about it like a clock, it's going to start at 9 o'clock and finish roughly about 6. From this angle we can see a little bit clearer on how the artist is putting these together. The artist has now highlighted around the sides of the palm trees. As you can see there's white on one side and black on the other. This is creating that beautiful round palm tree kind of effect. Using black on one side of the brush and white on the other, and the artist now creating that rocking motion to create the effect of wet sand. In doing this, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Of course, not literally. We're not after any flamingos or parrots. The artist wants me to let everybody know that he really loves and respects every single living creature. Anyway, we digress again. So, what the artist is doing now is creating wet-looking sand, but adding the black underneath, he's also adding shadow to the wetness on the sand, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No pun intended. Adding a little bit of white now onto the 1/4 inch brush, and tapping, he's adding foamy little patterns just where the water hits the beach. Yes, Mr. Artist. This angle gives us a perfect opportunity to see exactly what techniques and how he's using the brush just to dab in those little foamy patterns that are just washing up on the beach. Well done, Mr. Cameraman. Give yourself a pat on the back. He adds a little bit of white in now to show where there's light hitting through the wave. And continues touching up the base of the canvas now. A little bit of white highlight that's just moving water. On this canvas we can literally move anything that we want to. Should you make a mistake, of course, his golden rule is just let it dry and paint over it. Adding a little bit more darkness into the painting now, you can begin to see just how this has really come together. As always, we really hope you've enjoyed this Halloween episode of The Artist. Do make sure to like, share and subscribe, and head to outreachart.org to see more. And just like that, he takes an observation, and he's done it again. But wait, that's not the only surprise, because we want to show you the finished painting of how it looks now. Isn't that stunning? Bonsai Beach. Okay folks, well I really hope you enjoyed today's show and getting to encounter the artist. Do let me know your feedback. I'll be really interested to know, your thoughts and where you kind of at with it all. Because it may seem really odd, of a businessman and an artist to be dressing up in face paint and all sorts of, strange, like 17th century kind of feeling of artwork. But we did that again as an effort to think outside the box. And that's what I encourage you to do so as well. Think outside the box, think what makes you unique, think what makes your artwork special, and in doing so, you will stand out from the crowd every single time. I have been your host, John Morris. I will see you this coming Tuesday for Art Tips with John. Take care. God bless.